What's going on, gang? It's your boy Phantom Fuego, and you are now tuned into today's edition of EQ is Life. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. Let's get into it. As always, if you have any questions, critiques, or comments, feel free to get at us at EQislife247@gmail.com. That is EQislife247@gmail.com. So let's jump right into today's lesson. And as always, shout out to my guy Motivation for the Track. Alright, for those who missed yesterday's conversation about proper levels, gain staging, proper processing levels, etc., please feel free to check out episode 2, yesterday's show, on YouTube or Facebook. Alright, so now that we're processing into our track, we got to have a conversation about what type of processing we're going to be doing. And what I mean is, are we going to be doing additive or subtractive equalization? And now there are two different schools of thought on this, guys. One is that additive equalization is horrible. You should never use additive equalization. You should never be boosting your track. You should always be trying to just cut, clear away, and be trying to sculpt a sonic signature by removing sound, because that will give you a truer sense of what you truly have with each instrument. While other people boost all the time and make tons of hit records. Just goes to show you, both schools of thought can be accurate, and as long as you know the fundamental principles of audio, the fundamental principles of how to mix, how to record properly, and how to master, or some great mastering engineers, you will get professional quality tracks. There's no one way to skin this cat. This music thing there are so many paths you can take to get the desired sound for your genre, for the contemporary style of music that goes on today. And what am I saying all this to say? Don't beat yourself over the head trying to find out a particular set of rules. More take the time to train your ears, trust your insight, listen to a lot of contemporary music of a bunch of different genres, not just the genre you work in, and you'll be doing yourself a much better service than trying to follow some particular rules or guidelines or sheets. And definitely be wary of the presets that come with your plugins. They're a great starting point in certain instances, but because they're not there with you, they don't know exactly which frequencies are in the instruments you're using for your session. They don't know what mics you're using, the boost and cuts those mics have, the boost and cuts, the particular nuances of the cables or the mics or the instruments or the sample banks that you're using. So while those are great starting places, be wary of just leaning too heavily on fact sheets, cheat sheets, quick tips, guides. Really trust your ears. Really get into the place where you understand exactly where frequencies sit, what instruments really have what frequencies as their root tone and as harmonics of that frequency, and really get to know the music that you're doing. You'll be much better served for it. But I understand those things take time. So let me show you a tip that a particular way of working that I've found very useful and helpful. And many engineers work this way. So I say take a little bit of both schools of thought. Some subtractive EQ can be great. Some additive EQ can be great. And I particularly work with about, I would say, 85%, 88% subtractive EQ, and then I'm doing additive EQ when it's really necessary, and I'm trying to work as much in my groups as I can before I'm working on all my individual elements, because I really want my song to sound like one cohesive body of work, one big ball of sound, if that makes any sense. So what do I mean? Let's check out some Pro Tools. Dun, dun, dun. We are continuing to work in Avid's Pro Tools, and we are working on the song On My Drizzy by My Artist Motivation. Track is for sale, people, so please get at us. So let's check out this kick drum right here I have. I'll solo it for a sec. Also, one thing, guys, that I will talk about as we go forward, try to get into the habit as much as you can of listening to stuff in the context of the mix. Now, there will be times, of course, when you have to solo things just for a moment, but as much as you can, get in and out of soloing stuff quickly and get back to the mix, because it's all about the mix. But I just wanted to show you this example real quick. So I have up this kick drum. The EQ is running the EQ3 by DigiDesign / Avid's design team now. Cool. Okay, so what have I done so far? I have taken the approach of sweeping across, finding a spot that I didn't particularly like, which is a common practice, and then after I find that spot that I really don't like, this is called sweep and assassinate. Call it the hitman. Have you want to think about it? If I find a spot in the frequency spectrum I think is really obtrusive, really, this is too much, I can remove that, and by removing that, I'm making my kick drum a lot beefier, a lot heavier, a lot meatier, and that might be a little too much. I'll tuck that up a little bit. And always a good idea to, when you're doing subtractive EQ, to try to not attenuate the frequencies as much around it, as where the reverse is really true for additive EQ. You want to make them, smoother arcing, larger cues, larger bandwidths that you're affecting, just as a good general rule. And of course, all these rules can be broken, but it's generally a good place to start. I could have tried to do some additive EQ and tried to just add in some places to try to beef up this particular kick drum. But the problem is you can still hear that boxiness. You can still hear those areas where there are problems. So even if I was going to do a little boost at the end, it's really very smart and much more intelligent for me to apply this cut. And listening to it now in the context of the mix with that cut, I like where that's at, as opposed to this boost, which is only going to add more of a gloss and a sheen to the track that may just be creating more problems. So guys, always subtractive EQ, always subtractive EQ. Find places in your track where you can remedy problems with the overall signature of the track by first carving out spaces before you start thinking about places to add sound. Because you get into this, oh, it's louder, so it must be better thing. And that's not always the case. Find places to carve out space, and your tracks will be much better served for it. It's always funny how a track can sound low and small by itself, but when you put it together with the rest of the tracks, with the type of big sound you can achieve. That sounds like a kind of a problematic area. Cut some of that out. Again, sharpen this Q up. I would definitely sharpen this Q as well. So I'm going to be cutting this many areas. This might be too many cuts. Less is more, guys. Less is definitely more. I like the space that doing this subtractive EQ has been creating for my song. My kick and my snare are sitting in their own acoustic space. They're not fighting with each other. I can clearly hear both. If I add in the hi-hats, hi-hats seem to be masking a little bit. Same thing. Hear that? That very tinniness right there. Let's get that out of there. Carving frequencies away, guys, can help you create such space for each instrument in your signal chain. Remember, guys, it's about keeping headroom for the entire mix. Got my entire mix sitting around -9 dB. It's a really good place to have it. As always, guys, any information, any questions, comments, please feel free to get at us at eqislife@gmail.com. Excuse me, that's eqislife247@gmail.com. I'm Phantom Fuego. This has been EQ is Life. Keep grinding, push hard, work on your dreams, and as always, EQ is life. Let's go.